Good evening. We're back.
Yes, we are, finally.
Yes. So we haven't missed a Sunday. This is our fourth, right?
Yeah, so far we're committed and we're doing good.
That's right. Well, Jose, would you like to say anything to start off?
Um, what do you say now that a new generation of Americans has witnessed another presidential assassination attempt within their lifetime? And I'm talking, of course, about people who were born after Reagan. I mean, I guess that was the last time there was an assassination attempt. Is that right, Diane?
I think so. One that actually, I'm not sure, but certainly one that actually injured a sitting president or presidential candidate would be Reagan. Yeah.
Yeah, so anybody born after Reagan has now witnessed this. I mean, absolutely insane, um, just tragic. Hi, Christy. This insane, just completely tragic event that many Americans were witness to, and I know it's on the forefront of people's minds, but I think it's important to kind of categorize it or contextualize it in the context of. I mean, we're not going to piece together why this happened on this call, but there are some clues that I think can give us kind of a head start as to where to look. I mean, Europe has been panicking right now, talking about, well, I mean, what are we going to do if Trump comes into the presidency? And Biden said, "Don't worry, we're Trump-proofing NATO." And well, we saw one attempt to Trump-proof NATO just the other night, and Viktor Orban is doing his peace tour, and he comes here to the United States, and one of the people he talks with is Donald Trump. So, you know, I'm not saying that this is the reason that this happened. We really don't know. And I'm glad I didn't rush out and put out a statement. Although I know you were on RT. Is that right, Diane?
I was, and I also did put out a statement.
Okay. Well, I'm not. I'm just saying. I wasn't going to go.
But I was careful because you don't want to speculate, and I really want to warn people against doing this. What do you call it? Monday quarterback kind of thing. Well, it was blah blah blah, and I actually was rather horrified when I was on RT last night by the people who preceded me because they were talking about how this is going to affect the election. I don't know why people presume we're going to have an honest election, to be very blunt, or an election at all. People shouldn't be complacent. I was at a street fair today and I said, I think our nation is in very deep trouble. I was talking to a couple of young volunteer firefighters, and they said, well, our president's coming in. And I said, what do you mean? The next president. I'm thinking, are you kidding? They just tried to assassinate Donald Trump. We'd have no explanation of why that rooftop was unsecured. We have all kinds of speculation, and we never got to the bottom of who killed President Kennedy, which I would submit is the starting point for our investigation, not something that happened yesterday. So why would someone, and I think frankly, to give them a little bit of a break, I don't want to just bash people, uh, probably the possibility of more chaos is really too dreadful to contemplate. People are barely getting by. We are in the hyperinflationary blowout that Lyndon LaRouche warned of over and over and over, most emphatically since July, I believe it was July 28th or 25th, 2007, when he said there is no possibility of a non collapse. None. It is over. Well, we are in that. It is over. Look at the price of gasoline and then think about how that's going to affect food, so and everything else that everyone does, and whose income is increasing at the same pace as the cost of living. So I really want to warn against people trying to take little factoids, which you're probably not even in a position to verify yourself, and coming out with a theory. But I do want to say something, Jose, and if you don't mind, I'm going to share, because I did put out a warning. Let's see here if this will come up. Well, I can go right here, I suppose. Or no, here it is. Yeah, I did You can see that, right?
Let me see here. There we go. Add to stage. Yes, I can.
Okay. So this is my campaign newspaper of July 4th, 2024. And as you see, I'm going to just increase the size a little. Independent U.S. Senate candidate qualifies for November 5th ballot. There's me out organizing in the streets of Manhattan. A little down, Vega battles to defeat Torres in Bronx 15th CD. There's Jose Vega with Jimmy Dore, Russ Dobler, and
Eaton Weiss.
yeah, Keaton Weiss. And then the Assange situation. But look here on page 2. Sare warns of possible threat to Trump. July 1st. In the wake of the June 27th presidential debate, where Biden's dementia could no longer be hidden, and the recent Supreme Court ruling granting former President Donald Trump presidential immunity, well-placed intelligence sources report that the anti-Trump extremists within the U.S. political establishment are becoming increasingly desperate to prevent Donald Trump's re-election by any means necessary, including possible assassination. Independent candidate for U.S. Senate from New York, Diane Sare, said today she takes this possibility very seriously, especially after the assassination attempt 2 months ago against Czech, and it was actually Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico. She said they may fear that Trump would be freer in a second term, not having to worry about running again. And then I make the point that Fico has been one of the NATO dissidents, like Viktor Orban, whom you just mentioned, calling for negotiations, saying that NATO should not be involved in the Ukraine crisis, etc. And they refer to Fico as a quote unquote populist leader. And it really struck me that they're talking about him in the very, very same language they're talking about Trump. So I believe that these warnings of an assassination attempt were credible. Then you have the phone conversation of President Biden to a group of his top donors saying that we're going to have to put Donald Trump in the bullseye. And in a conversation today with Helga Zepp-LaRouche, she commented that often when someone is older, suffering dementia, they don't have the filter. They're in certain conversations and they tend to blurt things out that perhaps they shouldn't say. And remember Biden with his end Nord Stream?
Ah, yes.
Right? Probably they weren't intending for him to say that. And also, I have to say, think about Olaf Scholz. What a sorry excuse of a leader, because clearly he had been in a discussion with the Biden team about blowing up his own source of energy for his own population. And when the Reuters journalist asked him about it in German, are you really with Biden? Is not Nord Stream really going to end? He said, Zusammen, right? We do everything together. We're together. We're together. So this stinks to high heaven. It was predictable. And also, as we both know, Robert Kennedy Jr. is being denied Secret Service protection. I heard that has changed in the wake of this, but I haven't seen confirmation that
Richie Torres actually is introducing a resolution with Mike Lawler, who I think is your congressman, to make sure that Kennedy gets Secret Service protection.
Okay, I'm so glad that Richie Torres and Mike Lawler are so concerned while they continue to fund genocide in Gaza and nuclear war with Russia.
Yes, but political violence is never okay. Just when it's on our enemies.
I see. Well, is nuclear war with Russia political violence?
Yes.
I'm just asking. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Diane, you kind of paint a very stark picture here. I mean, I wish more people would be listening to you, given the fact that, you you warn that a possible assassination attempt is on the way towards Donald Trump. And we've been posing this question over and over to the American people: who is actually running your government? And the answer, well, we don't really know, but we do know that somebody doesn't want Trump there anymore. And I've been hearing all sorts of crazy things, like people saying that this was staged or something. Somebody died, actually. I believe one of the spectators who was there died. He was a fire chief. You know
Oh,
about?
I heard of a woman who was sitting behind Trump who was killed, and then others who were injured in critical condition, maybe another one. Who knows? I'm not sure.
It was three. What I heard is three people. Point is, and somebody did die, because I know there was a GoFundMe being put for the person who passed away, and you know, now is kind of the time for the American people not to get paralyzed. I mean, thankfully, Donald Trump wasn't killed. And I think this all but guarantees the fact that he will be president again, especially if Biden is not replaced as a nominee. But my fear is what happens between now and November. I mean, you said, will we even have an honest election? Will we even get to an election? And I don't necessarily just mean the fact that the human race could be annihilated. I mean to say, is there a Reichstag fire on the way? Was the assassination on Trump an attempt at a Reichstag fire? And if not, are they going to double down and try something even crazier to put us
Exactly.
in some kind of martial law?
No, that's the reason why people should stop saying, oh, Trump is fine. He survived. He's going to be president. Are you out of your mind? We don't know who is running the United States.
Yeah.
We have seen one miscarriage of justice after the next. It does seem, I know my opponent, Kirsten Gillibrand, is set on attacking the Supreme Court. So perhaps the Supreme Court, they've done a few rational things, made a few constitutionally legitimate decisions lately, which is good. But where where is the bottom? Who is drawing the line? Where is the group, the block of congressmen and women who are going to say, hey, we are in a really dangerous situation. We can't afford to have Biden in there one more minute. Let's not be opportunists and say, well, if we keep him in, Trump is more likely to win. If Biden is unfit to be president in January of 2025, he is unfit to be president now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, that's why I cringe when, what's her name? AOC and others are saying that Biden is of sound mind. I mean, even Richie Torres up to a month ago was saying that Biden is clearly of sound mind. And that's the kind of incongruity here that I think a lot of Americans are seeing. Nobody actually believes that Joe Biden was completely fine and sane before the debate. Everyone just kind of knew. The debate, all it did was make it okay for people to tell the truth that, yeah, Biden is not actually in control. And despite that fact, there are still some people who say maybe he just had a bad night. I mean, I've heard all kinds of crazy things, but ultimately, the point is that we can't rely on the people who are elected to guide us anymore. It has to be people who decide to elect themselves and take some leadership in this country and say, okay, well, I have to stand up and just start speaking out the truth.
Well, and that requires having a sense of what the truth is. And I would say that people have to do some pretty deep thinking, because we're in a situation where what is before your eyes is not necessarily reality. And I would go back to Putin's June 14th address to the Russian Foreign Ministry, where he said, look, what is needed is an entirely new security architecture which reflects the change in the world. The United States is not the global hegemon.
Yeah.
The NATO, British Empire doesn't run the world. Look at these votes at the UN. Look at the vote at the UN to recognize a Palestinian state. The United States had to veto that at a Security Council meeting. The world overwhelmingly thinks that they should be on an equal playing field if there's going to be negotiations with Israel. They need a state, they need statehood, they need representation. Americans don't often tend to think about how we look to the rest of the world, but I would encourage Americans to remember that the United States population is only something under 4% of the world's population.
Yeah. Yeah. I I think I don't know. Honestly, Diane, I'm kind of like wondering where do we go from here? What is it that we do now? I mean, I know you and I are running independent campaigns, and God, I was caught up in an awful discussion today, Diane. I won't give specifics, but basically, somebody was telling me, who happens to be an insider, well, Richie Torres is my friend, and my community values loyalty. They don't care about nuclear war. They don't care about Israel. They just care about the fact that Richie Torres has been there for my community, and I will not even stomach another minute with you. And it's like,
Is
are you
his community
serious?
a bunch of cannibals? What is his community?
So, right? And I mean, he was just totally disgusting. And he said that his people don't care about the foreign policies, and that nuclear war is not going to happen. They've been saying that since World War II, and it doesn't happen. Therefore, nobody should really be worrying about it. And it doesn't really matter. That's what he told me. And he said that if I even wanted a shot, I should focus only on local policies. So, mm,
I mean, someone told me that we shouldn't be speaking about the genocide ongoing in Gaza, where, by the way, today the IDF dropped another bomb or did a whole assault on a refugee camp, which they had declared to be a safe zone. So it was super densely populated, claiming they were going after some top honcho from Hamas. And they killed at least 70 people and injured over 200 more. And I'm sure those are lowball figures. So someone told me Americans don't care about it. It's not even the top 5 concerns. Well, that's not what I found. And you either, right? In the streets of New York City, people want
exactly.
to know, where do you stand on this? Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, I have to say, LaRouche warned about this. There's an incredible webcast, or it's actually a conference he did in January. I think it was January of 1996. He hadn't been out of prison that long. I guess about a year. He got out or he got out in 94 or 95. He'd been in prison for 5 years, and he was warning Bill Clinton not to be a tragic figure like Hamlet. And he said, don't listen to these pollsters. They all represent an interest. And then they'll come to you and say, we just did a poll, and 97% of the American people think that it's perfectly legitimate for Bibi Netanyahu to kill 3-year-olds in Gaza. Well, you know what? That's not true. But the pollster makes it up to massage a political figure into doing what they want them to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think to the people like AOC who are just complete and total sellouts who just keep standing by Biden. Like, at this point, you have to really remove yourself from the situation and think anybody who is advocating for Biden to stay, not even as the nominee, just as a president, must be as delusional and as dementia ridden as Biden to keep advocating for that. And so it really makes me question, what are the congressmen who are calling for Biden to stay doing? What is this actually about? Why would anybody continue to call for him to stay in office when all of these senior other congressmen are saying he should step down? And, Kamala Harris should invoke the 25th Amendment. And I don't, I don't, I don't necessarily know if I want that either. I don't know. We are going through very turbulent times right now, Diane, and I think what's required, honestly, is just a second intellectual revolution where people just begin to educate themselves on what the founding fathers actually wanted for this country, because we are a far cry from that.
I think so. And I think your initiative on astronomy and the Space CCC, a very good analogy is the North Star
Mm,
for the slaves.
yes.
What did they know? What were they living in? Complete insanity. What was life like on a plantation? Hell on earth, where natural law was thrown on its head, and some wealthy plantation owners declared that they had a right to own other human beings. And it went so against the grain. It is so unnatural for a human being to be enslaved that they decided to risk everything to escape. And in that world, what is your point of reference? The North Star. You have a focus on where you are going.
Hmm.
I think this is the one thing that everyone can get, whether you know every detail of everything, whether you know where Azerbaijan is on a map, which you should find out, by the way. But even if you don't know that, even if you don't know the difference between Timbuktu and Tajikistan, you can have an idea of what form of government is worthy of man. You can have an idea of what your grandchildren should be doing 50 years from now. And then you dedicate yourself to that purpose. And what you will discover is with that mission orientation that you will end up making the right decisions because you are trying to move yourself from point A to point B.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that can kind of close us out, Diane.
All right. Well, once again, I would like to make a plug for lots of people to donate to our campaigns. If you want to see reality in the world, then Jose and I need to be visible. And that means printing, and that means buying television ads and radio ads. And
Stickers,
that's right.
producing these actual ads, not just buying ad time for them. Whole bunch posters, putting up posters in bodegas and people's homes and everywhere. So yeah, people please should donate to our campaigns. People can find me at votevega.nyc.
You can find me at sareforsenate.com.
Okay. All right, everyone. I don't have an end card, so I'm just gonna hit end stream